My name is Cora, and my discovery didn't start with a bang or a confrontation or even a suspicious text message. It started with a clerical error, a single misdirected piece of mail from our insurance company, addressed to me but sent to our old postal code. The envelope was forwarded, arriving on a Tuesday, looking utterly innocent among the catalogs and bills. It was a policy review and update notice for a life insurance policy. The insured party was listed as Cora Elizabeth Vance. That's me. The policy was substantial, a staggering amount. The kind of sum that doesn't just cover funeral costs, it changes lives, erases debts, sets up generations. My heart did a strange, hopeful little flutter. My husband, Everett, had never been the most romantic, the most overtly thoughtful man. He was solid, dependable, a financial analyst who spoke in spreadsheets and 5-year plans. This felt like a grand, silent gesture of protection, a love letter written in actuarial tables. Perhaps after 15 years of a marriage that had settled into a comfortable, quiet pasture, he was thinking of the future, of my security, in a profound new way. I felt a warmth spread through my chest. I decided to surprise him with his favorite meal, to thank him. I was pulling a bottle of Malbec from the rack when a detail on the form, visible through the window of the envelope, snagged my eye. Beneficiary, Felicity Vance. Vance, our last name, but Felicity? I have a cousin named Felicity, but we aren't close. An aunt? No. I scanned my memory. Everett's side? He had no sisters, no female relatives with that name. A misspelling of Felicia, my mother's name? But her name was clearly listed as the secondary beneficiary on all our other documents. A typo? It had to be a typo, a lazy data entry error at the insurance company. That was the logical, Everett-esque explanation. He'd be annoyed at the inefficiency. I called the number on the form. I identified myself as Cora Vance, the insured. I wanted to verify the beneficiary details, citing the possible error. The representative, a woman with a politely bored tone, pulled up the file. Yes, Miss Vance, I have it here. Policy activated 6 months ago. Beneficiary, Felicity Vance. Relationship, spouse. Spouse. The word didn't echo. It dropped into the silence of my kitchen like a lead ball. That's not possible, I said, my voice strangely steady. I am Cora Vance, Everett Vance's spouse. Oh, I see the confusion, the representative said, her voice brightening with solved puzzles. The primary insured is you, ma'am, but the policy owner and payer is Everett Vance. He listed the beneficiary as Felicity Vance, spouse. Perhaps it's a trust or a pet? She offered a hesitant, uncomfortable laugh. Do you have a social security number for the beneficiary? I asked, my fingers turning to ice. A pause. Keys clicking. Yes, it's on file. I recited my own SSN. Is that it? No, ma'am, that's different. I thanked her and hung up. The room tilted slightly. Spouse. Everett had taken out a large life insurance policy on me, and he had made another woman, a woman with our last name, his wife, on paper, for the purpose of collecting if I died. The rational part of my brain, the part trained by 15 years of living with a man who worshipped logic, short-circuited. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was a financial instrument, a cold, premeditated fiscal decision. To understand the horror, you have to understand the landscape of my marriage. Everett wasn't cruel. He was absent, a pleasant, high-functioning ghost. We were partners in a quiet, successful domestic enterprise. We coordinated calendars, split chores, discussed market trends over grilled salmon. Intimacy had become a scheduled, quiet affair, like defrosting the freezer. I'd mourned the loss of passion, but consoled myself with stability. We were a solid, unshakable oak tree. Or so I thought. Now, I saw the oak tree was hollow, and someone had been carefully drilling a hole inside it, not to steal the sap, but to plant explosives inside. I did not make his favorite meal. I poured the glass of wine for myself, and I began to work. My hands were steady as I navigated. I created a fake social media profile, a generic male name, and searched Metamorphosis Fitness location tags. I scrolled through countless selfies, post-workout glow shots, protein shake promotions. And then I saw him, my husband, in a group photo on the gym's own page, celebrating a Member of the Month. He was in the back row, smiling, a genuine, relaxed smile I hadn't seen in years. And standing right in front of him, her head tilted back as if laughing at something he'd said, was a stunning woman in her late 20s. Her name was tagged Felicity Morrow. Morrow. Not Vance, not yet. But the caption under the photo, written by the gym, sealed it. Shout out to our dynamic duo, Felicity and Everett, always pushing each other to new PRs. Hashtag gym family, hashtag goals. Dynamic duo. Goals. I stared at her face, vibrant, unlined, full of a life that felt miles away from my quiet, curated existence. She was a personal trainer, according to her profile. Her life was electrolytes and encouragement, lifting people up. And my husband, my spreadsheet husband, was her dynamic duo. The pieces, cold and metallic, clicked into place. The life insurance policy wasn't a mistake. It was a step in a plan. A terrible, logical plan. He'd given her our last name on the form, spouse. Was it a fantasy they shared? A dark joke? Or was it a literal blueprint? To make her Felicity Vance for real, he would first have to stop being married to me. A divorce would be messy. It would split assets, our comfortable life. He was a financial analyst. He optimized for a maximum gain, minimum loss. My death, however, would be clean. It would bring him a windfall, a life insurance payout free of tax. And with it, he could start fresh with his dynamic duo, his Felicity, without the friction of alimony, without dividing the property. He could metamorphose, just like his gym's name promised, into a new man, funded by my absence. I didn't feel fear, not then. I felt a towering, incandescent rage, so pure it was calm. It was the rage of being turned into a line item, a liability to be removed from the balance sheet. I didn't confront him. I became a shadow. I hired private investigator. The report that landed in my inbox a week later was both banal and chilling. Everett and Felicity had been together for over a year. They had a routine. Gym sessions, lunches at a cafe near her apartment, weekend hiking trips where his location sharing conveniently malfunctioned. They were, by all appearances, in love. There was no evidence of violence, no talk of poison, no sinister plots over her. And that was the most terrifying part. Everett wouldn't get his hands dirty. He would engineer a circumstance, a car accident, a sudden unexplained illness, a slip on the stairs of our recently retiled foyer. He would wait for an opportunity, and with this policy in place, that opportunity would become a solution. My revenge, therefore, could not be emotional. It had to be structural. It had to be a countermove in the financial game he thought he was playing. I went to 3 different lawyers. I chose the most ruthless, a woman named Ingrid, whose eyes hardened to flint when I showed her the policy. We're not filing for divorce, I told her. Not yet. We're going to play a longer game. First, I quietly, legally separated our finances. I opened new accounts in my name only. I diverted a portion of my own salary. I began methodically moving sentimental, valuable heirlooms to a storage unit, things that had been in my family for generations. Then I initiated what I called the wellness campaign. I dramatically overhauled our diet, citing a scare about cholesterol. No more shared meals, no more common ingredients. I bought a personal blender for my morning smoothies, which I kept locked in my home office. I installed a new security system with interior cameras under the guise of a neighborhood crime alert, focusing on the kitchen and main entrance. I made my life, the life he might consider ending, a fortress of documented, witnessed safety. I became relentlessly publicly healthy. I took up running with a neighbor. I posted about it. I got a full, exhaustive physical and made sure the results, Cora is in exceptional health, were left on the counter. I made myself a terrible, high-risk target. And then I struck at the heart of his plan. I scheduled a meeting with the head of compliance at Everett's firm. I brought my lawyer, Ingrid. I presented the insurance policy, highlighting the fraudulent beneficiary designation. My husband appears to have committed forgery and fraud, I said, my voice calm. He has fabricated a spouse to be the beneficiary of a policy on my life while actively engaged in an extramarital affair with this woman. I am concerned about his judgment, his ethics, and what this implies for his handling of client funds. The blood drained from the compliance officer's face. In the world of high finance, perception is everything. A scandal like this was a grenade. 2 days later, Everett came home early. His face was gray. He'd been suspended pending an internal review. "Cora," he stammered, his logical world collapsing. "There's been a terrible misunderstanding at work. Someone has made wild accusations." I was sitting in the living room, knitting. I'd taken up knitting. It kept my hands steady. "What kind of accusations?" About a policy, an insurance policy. They think that I made an error." I put the knitting down. I looked at him, my husband of 15 years, the man who had optimized me out of his future. Was it an error, Everett? Or was it a plan? He froze. He saw the look in my eyes. Not hurt, not hysteria, but cold, forensic understanding. He saw the security camera's tiny red light glowing in the corner of the room. He saw the fortress I'd built. "It's her, isn't it?" he whispered, defeat settling on him like ash. "Felicity, you know. I know you made her your wife for $1 million payday. I know you were waiting for me to become a profitable exit strategy. I've documented everything. The policy, the affair. My lawyer has copies, so does your firm. So does the insurance company's fraud department." He didn't deny it. He crumpled into a chair, a logic puzzle that had solved itself into oblivion. "I never meant. I wouldn't have. But you set the stage. You just didn't expect me to read the script." The divorce was swift and brutal. With the fraud allegation hanging over him, he conceded to every one of my terms to avoid criminal prosecution and total professional ruin. I got the house, a large portion of our savings, and a binding agreement that he would maintain a separate, smaller life insurance policy with me as the sole beneficiary for the next 10 years. My own morbid joke. I heard through the grapevine that Felicity didn't find the scandal dynamic. She left him shortly after. His firm didn't fire him, but he was sidelined, permanently tarred. He moved to a smaller apartment, back to the corporate gym. As for me, I sold the house. It felt cold, a crime scene. I used the money to buy a light-filled loft downtown. I joined a different gym, a women's-only boxing studio. I learned to throw a proper jab, a cross, an uppercut. The physicality of it was a purge. Sometimes at night, I think about that policy. It was the most honest thing he ever gave me. It wasn't a promise to cherish me in life. It was a blueprint to value me in death. He showed me my precise worth to him, a number on a form, payable to another woman. So I took that number and I built a new life with it, a life with excellent security, airtight health, and a prenuptial agreement so severe my new partner, a gentle sculptor who gets clay under his nails, laughs when he signs it. Everett taught me that love can be a contract, but he forgot the most important clause, the one about breach of fiduciary duty. And the penalty he paid wasn't levied by a court, it was levied by me. I didn't just survive his plan, I used its proceeds to fund my escape. And the view from up here, in my secure, well-insured life, is so much better than the one from the grave he chose for me.